Hello and welcome to the Rising Generation Leadership Podcast with me, Errol Lawson. This is a place where Christian leaders and entrepreneurs are empowered to step into their greatness and fulfill their callings to the glory of God. If you're a professional, you're thinking, I want to start my own business. There's a business in me that's going to enlarge the kingdom of God and make a difference, and you're not sure how to get started? Go to www.errollawson.com now and download our free video on the 5 core abilities of highly effective Christian leaders. You're going to love today's episode. Hey, why don't you go back and check out our over 100 previous episodes and see which one meets your need for where you are right now in your leadership journey. Thank you for tuning in. Enjoy today's episode, and God bless you. Hello and welcome to the Rising Generation Leadership Podcast. Again with me, Errol Lawson, and my special guest today is Chris Niemeyer. Chris Niemeyer founded missiontravel.org in 2006. Their passion for missions and travel formed the idea of serving the travel needs of those serving the world. Chris loves to travel and has been to nearly 30 countries with another 100 plus countries on his bucket list. Chris, I know I could say so much more about what you're doing now, but good morning where you are, Chris. Good evening from Birmingham in the UK.
Good morning, good evening. Great to be here. It's a pleasure, Errol.
Great to have you, man. Chris, I know you're up to a lot right now. First, before we go into our conversation today, fill in any gaps in your bio right there for us and give us a glimpse into what you're up to in the world, please.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, I founded Mission Travel back in 2006 with my wife, and we just had one of those experiences where we were both in jobs working for other people, but had that entrepreneurial itch that we needed to scratch. And we had a literal kitchen table experience where, we said, what are we gifted at? What's God given us in terms of some talents and interest? And we both had been involved in missions, both enjoyed travel, and kind of married that relationship together. And so it's been a great 10 years in running Mission Travel, and we've been able to take a couple of segments of that business and spin it off into another business recently called Like-Minded Travels, which serves essentially, I help influencers create unforgettable trips to connect with their fans. And so it's a lot of these online influencer types of authors, bloggers, podcasters that have a great following, and they simply want to connect with their people in person. Awesome. For a unique experience. Cruise ships at sea and seminars to all sorts of fun stuff, and then engage more with the missions community and offering a software service now for mission trip leaders too. So a lot going on. It's a full plate. I got 4 kids. Oh, wow. I'm not bored.
What exactly is Mission Travel? What does it do exactly?
Yeah, so at our core, we're a Christian missions travel agency. So we help support the travel needs, namely the international airfare, any lodging or transportation needs that mission trip teams have. So primarily from the U.S., sending organizations and churches and universities that go across the world to share the love of Jesus. So we help get them there. We've got direct contracts with airlines for these mission trip fares. They either deem them missionary or humanitarian fares. And so oftentimes the benefits there are typically lower than anything you can find on another online site. Sometimes different bags, allocation of bags can go as donations and supplies for free. And some better terms and conditions on changing or canceling the fares if needed. Brilliant. So it's a great service.
What's the size of the company at the moment?
We've got a team about 12 right now in terms of all of our employees and a couple independent contractors, sales reps that work for us. So it's a great team. I'm blessed to have just an amazing staff that's running it well, and we're doing some amazing things, just serving some teams that are doing great work around the world.
It's great, man. And how did you know? A bit into your story now, right? So I know your business is huge. How did you know that this was what God had called you to do, this particular kind of business. Tell us your transition story, how you got into it.
Well, the transition story probably starts back in college. So I grew up in a great Christian home, great parents, taught us hard work and to love Jesus. But like most kind of teen 20-somethings, I drifted a bit maybe in my faith and explored my own doctrine. And I got bit by the political bug. My first career was in politics, of all things, and I ran a large, influential PAC. So in the U.S. here, a political action committee. So it was a bunch of rich guys influencing the political process, and identifying candidates to run for office, fundraising for them, some lobbying, and it was a great career in that I was right in the thick of the business community and really wining and dining business leaders. So I was at an early age around a lot of successful entrepreneurs and businessmen. And after a few years of just feeling burnout and a 24/7 kind of go type job in the murky world of politics, realized, this is probably not for me long term. And I feel like I'm kind of losing a bit of my soul here. And so, I had that kind of entrepreneurial itch that I knew I wanted to scratch. I had some mentors that said, Chris, you're probably the personality type to take an idea, create it, run with it, and run a business that way. And so, it was middle of 2006 when both my wife and I were kind of in these jobs where we knew we weren't fully satisfied and engaged with what God was doing in our lives, and said, we need to start something on our own. And that's when we really started praying through our abilities, our interests, our skill sets. And she comes from a business marketing background. She was in the travel world at the time. I was in the business, learned a lot just about, financing and marketing and creating things. And so we put those skill sets together, and it was a pivot that took several months to get through, but we haven't looked back, man. It's been a blessing.
Wow, it's amazing. And see, you stepped into this new kind of calling, almost this leadership role. And as you stepped out into mission travel and you're on this journey, was there a point where maybe you were heading in one direction and something happened and you came to a crossroads, or there's an epiphany of sorts that caused you to go in a completely different direction? Remember that happening and the story around that?
Moment in, I think it was April 2006, where
say that again, please,
my
Chris.
wife and I were.
So we lost you there a second. Say that again.
Sorry?
Please? We lost you for a second there. Can you say that again for us?
Sorry. Okay. So I think it was in April of 2006, and we had a particularly busy time in our lives. My wife had gone back to school. We were in major campaign mode and fundraising for this PAC I was running, and really we're kind of ships passing in the night, and we're approaching our 5-year anniversary. And we'd always talked about having kids around 5 years, but yet we're drifting apart. And I remember driving home after a long day and just sort of reflecting on this season and knowing, what, I'm not the husband that I should be, much less ready to be the man of a father that I need to be. And there was a song that came on the radio just as I was having these thoughts. There's a song by Switchfoot called "This Is Your Life. Are You Who You Want to Be?" And it was just one of those powerful kind of Damascus Road almost experiences where I literally had to pull over and wipe the tears from my eyes so I could see well, and decide, Lord, I'm not the person who I want to be, and I need to make a major decision to pivot away from this career and this influence of people. And that was the major thrust.
It's great.
And no more of this, no more of this sort of worldly, influence of, because I frankly got lost in the pursuit of money and of greed and power and influence that politics brings on, and knew I needed to get away from that. And so that was really the thrust of missions.
Now you've kind of come through that, and thank you for sharing that. Have you considered maybe going back into politics now with a fresh perspective? Has that crossed your mind?
No. I have not.
To ask.
I say this, and I tell this joke to others, but at the end of leaving politics, I finally was able to understand the definition of the word politics. Okay, politics comes from two Greek words: poly, meaning many, and ticks, blood-sucking leeches. And in my opinion, and in my experience, most politicians are that. So I don't have any desire to get back into politics now.
Wow. So what's been your biggest challenge in your leadership journey so far?
The biggest challenge for me, I think, is the idea of just working on your business and not getting sucked into working in it. I don't know how much profile stuff you do, but in terms of discs, I'm a D, and Enneagram, I'm a 3. So we're kind of that driver type. And sometimes if someone's not going to do something, we just want to just do it and get it done. But that can get us kind of sucked back into the weeds of our business. Yeah. And so working on the business and learning to delegate and trust more is something I'm continually challenged by. And I've got a better team now in place here at Mission Travel that has really done a great job recently of taking those delegations and just running with it. So I'm seeing some fruit in that, but it's a continual process.
Hello and welcome to the Rising Generation Leadership Podcast with me, Errol Lawson. This is a place where Christian leaders and entrepreneurs are empowered to step into their greatness and fulfill their callings to the glory of God. If you're a professional, you're thinking, I want to start my own business. There's a business in me that's going to enlarge the kingdom of God and make a difference, and you're not sure how to get started? Go to www.errollawson.com now and download our free video on the 5 core abilities of highly effective Christian leaders. You're going to love today's episode. Hey, why don't you go back and check out our over 100 previous episodes and see which one meets your need for where you are right now in your leadership journey. Thank you for tuning in. Enjoy today's episode, and God bless you. It's great. And we call this section now the 5 core ability section. So from over 100 interviews, all these different leaders around the world, we've identified 5 core abilities that highly effective Christian leaders and entrepreneurs have. The first ability is the ability to create and communicate a compelling vision. Interested to know, Chris, how have you gone about creating and communicating your vision for your business? And what's your process?
Okay, that's an interesting one, because one of the things about our business is we are not a brick and mortar business. So my employees are spread out across the country. Yeah. We're all virtual, and so it's been a challenge to overcome for sure. Is creating creating a business culture even where you're not even around each other. And so wow. We routinely, we have annual retreats, which is always a good thing. Where I kind of communicate the vision for the next, say 1 to 3 years. And we share that and get involved and collaborate on that as a team. But then just as a virtual team, having regular team communication in the form of, weekly calls with my managers, the team as a whole having at least a monthly call just to touch base on some issues. We're all super connected in terms of chat rooms throughout the day and all that, but just having those times. For example, last year we actually took our team retreat, which we normally just do a couple of days. We took them all down, our entire staff down to Peru, and it was a few days of tourist stuff, but then it was ending where we really lived what we do for our clients, and basically coming alongside a missions organization, working at an orphanage, and just being enveloped in active missions. And I think that was great for our team to be part of together and see, what we do to serve other people. That's what they're doing each time we take their teams out. So that was a great trip.
Brilliant. I love that. the second core ability is, I think I'm going to share that with my team. The idea of doing some kind of mission activity as a team together.
Yeah, it was powerful.
Second ability is your ability to create and manage wealth.
Hmm.
How did you make your first dollar in your business?
I think one of those dollars was digital in terms of it coming through my bank account. So I don't have a dollar on the wall. I feel like I should. I feel like I'm not a business owner without a dollar on the wall. But we had started Mission Travel with this idea, and part of it was we had a lot of people in ministry, a lot of people that we knew, friends of ours that were working for churches or mission organizations, and so we really started with that servant leadership mentality, and how we were going to approach customer service and kind of coming alongside those relationships. And so, the Lord blessed that. I mean, our first year, we actually had over $1 million in sales revenue. And so, that for a small company in the travel business, which is very competitive, that was a big win. And I think we've just continued to lead with that of relationships, serving people well, and the money's going to follow.
Awesome. And the third core ability is, it's about productivity. It's about how you are able to focus on the key things and then to delegate or eliminate the rest. What's your number one activity or process or app that you have for increasing your productivity?
So I'm a big fan of the word productivity. my wife will say that efficiency and effectiveness are probably two of my love language words.
Wow.
So I love this topic. For me personally, right now, I'm really focused on time blocking and batching.
Okay.
So staying in the flow of the same kind of activity for say a 60 or 90-minute time frame. So for a practical example, that would include getting through a chunk of email within an hour or two, or making outbound sales calls for a certain specific time, or working on overall kind of business direction in terms of kind of where we're going and maybe other revenue sources we could plan for. So time batching is big for me. And then having times where I can have open office hours with my team if they need me, but then them knowing there's certain hours in the day where they can't, because I've got to focus on that deeper kind of focused work.
It's great. And the fourth ability is about team. In fact, it's about your ability to get the best out of the people you lead, whether they're kind of for you or with you or like you or not. Still getting the best out of them. When it comes to building a team for a project or a business, what process works well for you, and maybe what have you tried in the past that hasn't worked so well?
That's a good question. Team dynamic can always be tricky. You're dealing with people. I was fortunate and I think blessed in that the first few hires were really not even on my radar necessarily. They were really kind of God ordained relationships that happened at the right times. And I can go into stories of those, but really the right people at the right time came, and I was able to see that and kind of just trust my gut on some of those hires. One of the challenges that I have experienced was, a few years back, as we were growing and growing in the travel space, still very focused on missions. I decided, we really need to focus on offering more leisure travel to our clients. And so an opportunity and a person came and made a hire to basically run a new leisure division, focusing on honeymoons and anniversary trips and family trips and such. And it just didn't gel well with who we were and kind of the leadership that we'd cast for ourselves in the mission space. And so I learned from that in terms of, don't try to be all things to all people. It's okay to just be focused on this one thing. And we still do other aspects of leisure travel when our clients ask us, but it's not a focus of marketing. It's not a focus of our team anymore. So that was good, just to realize, stay focused, and keep the team focused too.
Awesome. And the final ability is about self-confidence and unwavering determination. What's your key to building your confidence and not getting stuck in the trap of the imposter syndrome? People feel like, what, I'm not good enough, or they start comparing themselves to others. And, how do you build your confidence up there and not fall into that trap?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think one of the things is just staying grounded. I've got a great wife who helps me stay grounded in my ideas. A great mastermind, great amount of friends around me that can influence, and they speak life and speak encouragement, affirmation. They can also maybe point out some blind spots or challenge in certain ways. And so that's key. I mean, it's not just a group of your Bible study guys, but maybe seek out some people, whether it's mastermind or others, that can really take a holistic look at your life. And that's really been key for me in the past couple of years, especially.
Brilliant, awesome. And quick fire round now. John Maxwell says that the secrets to success are hidden in your daily routine. What does the first 90 minutes of your day typically look like?
Well, I'm an early morning person. So, in fact, I think it was Benjamin Franklin's famous quote, "Early to bed, early to rise, makes a man healthy, wealthy, and wise." And so I've always loved that quote. And I think in terms of, like we talked about earlier, productivity, I try to get after it the first part of my day. So, my alarm clock usually goes off around between 5:30 and 6. I usually hit the ground with a pretty quick and vigorous workout. There's a lot of good science behind activating your body to help engage the mind to a greater degree in the morning.
Yeah.
So I try to do a quick, high intensity type of workout. Then I have a quiet time of devotion, some prayer, and reflecting just about my personal walk with the Lord. And I'm also interested in, actually, I want to explore this more, but just some of that guided meditation, just to prepare mentally for focus too. Is something I'm exploring. But then I get after it, start tackling my main to-do list for the day. If I've got one or two key projects I need to work on, that's my first task at hand before email triage and all that. And then I work remotely. I work from home, and I've got a home office in my backyard. So usually between 90 minutes and 2 hours after I wake up, the kids are finally stirring, and so I'll take a break and tend to go inside with the family and have a good breakfast together, and then proceed with the day.
Awesome. And what other key habits have contributed towards your success?
This past year, one of the key things for me was just working on the idea that every minute counts.
Okay.
And so to be present on my daily routine. And so, whether it's the time blocking and coming in and out of certain blocks, making sure that I'm just staying on task and things. So I try to keep a fairly rigid calendar. I know a lot of people don't love being planned into a corner, but I've always found that, for me at least, in my personality, having the habit of moving from one task to the next without a ton of gap time really helps focus my day.
Awesome. And what's your biggest weakness as a leader?
Biggest weakness, I probably alluded to it earlier, but I think managing people and delegating is still not something I've mastered. I don't know if I ever will. Maybe that's just how God made me. But I think actually understanding that has helped me with recent hires. And so I've got a great team now. Hired a sales manager, and then recently a travel agency manager for Mission Travel, who is really gifted in this space. And I think, if you can understand a weakness or blind spot of yours and delegate that to someone to help offset that weakness and you're bringing strengths together, I think that's to the strength of the team.
Brilliant. And what's your biggest strength as a leader?
Biggest strength, I think, would probably be that just the idea and vision casting, that a leader should be doing. Looking at things from, most of my staff, they're focused on the tasks at hand, or the emails in their inbox, or the sale that's in front of them. Versus a leader needs to take a look at what's the 6-month plan, the 12-month, 3-year, where are we going, and then getting the team to understand that and galvanize around that. And then I'm just there to encourage along the way. So I think that's probably one of my bigger strengths recently.
And who have been your top 3 most significant mentors in your leadership journey?
Top mentors. Well, I always have to lead. My first mentor would actually be the Bible in general. So it's 66 books, 40 some authors, but they all point to Jesus. And so, I think that for me is my biggest, mentor, if you will. From a business mentor perspective, there's a guy by the name of Bill Lynch, who was a business mentor to me years ago in my first career. He was a very successful businessman, had multiple types of businesses throughout San Diego County. And he just had a lot of influence on me in terms of thinking about my next step. And part of that transition really from politics to running my own business was a large result of some of his mentorship. And then thirdly, I would have to say, in authors in general, I've really focused a lot of my time the past couple of years in just seeking wisdom from whether it's other podcasters that I follow or authors and different books I've been reading. So, just the power that I think we all have at our fingertips now. It's pretty incredible, really, in this technology that we have to read from and listen from. I mean, there's people that are literally in your head if you're listening to them. That's pretty awesome.
So let me dig a bit deeper into those. Let's start from that end then. Is there a particular podcast or book maybe that has influenced you, and what was that, and what did you get from that? And then Bill Lynch and the Bible. What's the best piece of advice that you've gotten from Bill Lynch and from Scripture?
Okay. I would say one of the podcasts that I listen to, the blogs that I read, one of the guys that's been pretty influential in my life recently, who's actually become a client of mine, of all things, but is Michael Hyatt. His blog on leadership and productivity, efficiency, and just creating a clear and compelling message. So I've really enjoyed Michael Hyatt, and there's many others that I could insert in here as well, but he's one of the, in terms of the Bible, I would just say from Old Testament to New Testament, it's all about Jesus. It's all about God's redemptive plan. And in fact, I've got a kids devotional that I read with our kids sometimes, and it's really literally from Genesis 1 through Revelation. It's seeing Jesus in the different stories and biblical accounts, and the way that God redeems the world, and the plan that He had already at the beginning of time. So, you just have to love the Bible there. And then, Bill Lynch was one of the guys that really focused on me at the end of my career there, especially when I was seeking advice.
What's the best advice he gave you?
He really challenged me to not work for other people, but to work for myself.
Okay.
He was really one of those that said, you know what, you have this entrepreneurial spirit about you, and so you need to come up with your ideas, create, operate, and grow a business. And that was, I mean, for a young 20-something, that was challenging to think about, because I come from a upbringing, a mentality that, you get a good job and you save well and you work 40 years and you retire, and that's life's good. So that whole idea of the risk reward of entrepreneurship was new to me at the time, and he helped me get there.
Great. And what's the one thing you're most fired up about right now?
Most fired up about, boy, there's a few things. I kind of mentioned I got a full plate, but at this point, growth in both my businesses right now from Mission Travel and Like Minded is key. I've got a great team running Mission Travel, and so we're pretty focused there. One of the things I've been working on in the background here for a bit is a new complementary type of business to Mission Travel. It's called missiontrip.org. That'll be launched here in April, and it's really a software service and membership site to equip and empower mission trip leaders and participants. So it's gonna have a simple guide and checklist, and then tons of resources that's going to save hours and money and stress to really create a successful mission trip from the idea of going somewhere till you return. And so we're pretty excited about some of the feedback we've already gotten, and I'm eager to actually launch it. It's been in that mode of in developer hands for too long, and I just want to get it out. So I'm excited there.
Awesome. And we're almost done now, Chris. Well, is there like a book or a resource that you're reading or have read that you recommend for a leader or entrepreneur that's listening right now?
The best book that I've read probably in the last couple of months has been Deep Work by Cal Newport, and that really helps solidify. I mentioned and alluded to it a bit earlier, but just in terms of time blocking and batching and all that, I thought I was doing pretty good at some of that before I read the book, and then the book convicted me even a bit more. But it's just a great book in identifying what it is that we're really good at, and needing to focus on truly engaging in that deep, significant work. Because in this day and age, there's so many, I think what he calls shiny objects. I mean, we could go from our email inbox to our Twitter feed to Facebook and back again in the course of 2 minutes, right? and so it's like, turning off those distractions and focusing even for a couple hours maybe on one particular thing, that'll yield really good results. And I've found that to be true. Brilliant. So definitely recommend Deep Work to anyone that's not read it.
Brilliant. Chris, it's always great speaking to you, man. I know guys listening right now, go and check out whatever Chris is doing. Chris, your website and your social media handles, are you online and stuff? How can we get hold of you?
Yeah. You can find me at missiontravel.org. So missiontravel.org, and I'm at Chris at missiontravel.org. Then likemindedtravels.com. And I'm at Chris at likemindedtravels.com. You can find me on LinkedIn, and maybe we'll put some of that in the show notes as well.
Awesome. Chris, thank you so much for your time today, brother. I know every time we get together, it's a great conversation. And I know that people listening are going to be inspired by the work you're doing. Guys, truly go and have a look at what Chris is doing in that space of mission travel. And if you're a church leader, you're a pastor, you're leading a church organization, you're looking for someone to help you coordinate your mission trips locally, nationally, internationally, do go and check out what Chris and the team over there are doing. Chris, thank you for your time today.
Thank you very much. My pleasure. Always love having conversation with you. You take care.
All right, bless you. Thank you again for joining us today on the Rising Generation Leadership Podcast. I pray you've been inspired, you've been lifted, you've been encouraged to take your personal leadership to the next level. We really encourage you guys to just take action, make it happen, do something, start somewhere, go out and change the world in some way, big or small. Guys, if you've enjoyed the podcast today, please share with your friends, share with your loved ones, your colleagues, someone out there you think might benefit from hearing this great content. And if you want some more questions answering, you got a question, email me, Errol at errollawson.com. Or if you want a free 30 to 45 minute coaching session with myself around a leadership challenge or issue you're working on in your business, your church, or in your organization, please feel free to email me right away or get you booked in. It's Errol at errollawson.com. Thank you again for listening. Go to our iTunes page, check it out, check out the previous episodes, give us a nice review. That would be awesome. Really appreciate if you could do that for us. We really appreciate you just for being here and listening. Thank you so much. God bless you, and we'll see you on the next episode of The Rising Generation.